understand.
All right. Take it away, Monica. And so just everybody, if you're not familiar with Monica, or if you're not familiar with the Together We Grow, my name is Prerna Richards. I'm the founder of Together We Grow. And Monica is a good friend of mine, and she's very kindly and graciously coming on to talk to us about boys. And I can't wait to listen and learn. Monica is the executive director for Early Childhood Christians Network. It's ECCN, and she hosts amazing conferences all over Texas. So you definitely want to keep an eye out on the social media when she posts something to take advantage of it. And now I'll be quiet and hand it over to you.
Well, I am honored that you would invite me to come and talk with your audience and to share a little bit about my passion with boys. Like Prerna said, my name is Monica Healer, and I am the executive director of an organization called Early Childhood Christian Network. And we want to encourage you, to equip you, to do a great job, to work with excellence in this early childcare field. And I know that's what Prerna is about. So I am excited to be here to talk about boys. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. As Prerna said at the beginning, if you have questions, please do not hesitate at all to post those in the chat. We will have a time of question and answer at the end. And also, if there's something that we need to clarify or interrupt from the beginning, then Prerna will take care of that. She'll interrupt me and we can talk. I'm going to go ahead and hide the chat window because I start to just read all your chats and then I get distracted. So I'm hiding the window on my side so that I don't look at it. Yes, we're talking today, excuse me, about classroom connections with boys. I think so often in our early childhood environments, we are a whole bunch of women typically trying to figure out how to manage these little hooligans that come in our classrooms. And we're naturally very good at teaching girls because most of us, are women in this field. And so I want to talk about boys. Let me make sure that I can fast forward my slides over here so that we can get to the next slide. Do y'all see? Oh, it's not going. Why is it not going? Oh, there we go. This is why I talk about boys. This is my life right here. Okay. This picture was taken in 2019. So it is several years old. It was the last time that all 5 of us actually went on a vacation all together because you can see that my children are growing. My oldest son is in the red hat, sunglasses. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one just to remind you that while they are all males, they are also all very different. And that is a good reminder for us in the classroom that while we may think that all boys need this or that in the middle of all that, they are still individuals. And we want to meet individual needs, not just a broad range. But what I'm covering today is kind of a general developmental, what do boys need that's a little bit different than maybe what girls need. And then hopefully I'll challenge you a little bit. Hopefully some things that maybe you've not thought of, you can see boys in a different light, because I think sometimes we can be annoyed by boys because we don't really understand what needs they're expressing when they drive us crazy as women. So first off, let me tell you about each one of these men in my life, and that'll hopefully give you a window into why I care so much about what we do and how we do it and how we do it well to meet all the needs of our students. My oldest son is right here in the red hat, and he is a helper to the core. His goal in life is to become a physical therapist. Right now, he is working in a gym and is a personal trainer and really loves to help people meet their goals. He's an encourager and just a great listener. He can help people set goals. That's really his personality. He's a hard worker and a hustler, and he also has ADD and can sometimes get super distracted, and he's super procrastinator. Okay. Son number 2 is over here at the front with his hat on backwards in the tan hat. He is creative, very intellectual. He's, when you talk about the gifted students, he is your typical GT student. He's super sarcastic, has very dry humor. Also incredibly intellectual, is a major researcher, but is really, really creative. He's played guitar since he was in second grade. He plays multiple instruments now, lives in Nashville in the music business, and is going to be on tour in the spring. Like he's doing a lot of really creative work, but is also super detail oriented and not athletic at all. Like he is spatially the most unaware of all of the men in my life. Like it took him forever to learn how to park a car because he just could not get that spatial awareness. Then my youngest is over here on the far left. He is the most spatially aware. He's what I would consider what we typically consider typical boy, all boy. He's super active, always has been. I mean, at 3 years old, he was climbing on my oven to put chicken nuggets in the microwave because he thought he could be independent. I mean, that is him to a T. And he's 20 now and is still the same way. He was the fastest in learning how to drive. He also drives the fastest. He's also our safest driver. Like never had an accident. No, he's definitely the safest because he's so spatially aware of his body. He's also an athlete and hates school, all of school, because typically what we want from boys is to sit still and be quiet and to pay attention. And that for him has been really hard. And so he's never really done well in school. He is very hands-on, loves a lot of noise and experiential, right? Like because he's so spatially aware of everything, he wants everything to be an experience for him. Okay. Then my husband over here on the far right is super smart, like genius level smart, and also very, very logical and rational. Everything has to have an explanation. He is a deep researcher. He will not make a decision without knowing all of the information. He's also not athletic and he's not typically naturally helpful. He's very much logical. So his standard words to me are, when I say like, I feel like we should do this, he says, we don't feel like we should do, you think we should. Well, I am a feeler and he is a thinker. Okay. So there's a very big difference. But what I want you to really hear from this is while these are all male, they are all very, very different and all have very different needs. Okay. Let's make sure I can get these slides to go through. There we go. Okay. I would love for y'all to type in the chat. How would you describe boys in one word? Let's see the chat. Let me see if I can pull it up. Type it in the chat. How do you describe them? Active. Yes. Rowdy. So good. Rough and loud. Oh yeah. Busy. Unpredictable. I love that. Movers, leaders, energetic, loud, active, playful. Oh, y'all have good words to describe boys. Let me show you what I often hear when I teach this session. They're loud. Some of y'all said that. Rambunctious, physical, aggressive, dirty. Anybody think boys are dirty? Let me just say, I had 3 teenagers at the same time, and I would not even go upstairs where they lived because it was so smelly up there. Now they're all grown and it's different, but. And then smelly, messy, obnoxious, active, wild. I love the descriptions you're using. Mechanical, challenging, experimental, different, playful. So fun. So fun. Yeah, do you see how when we talk about boys, a lot of the words we use to describe them, y'all are actually really good. You use some really positive terminology, but a lot of people, the first thing they think of is words like this, which are actually pretty negative when you think about it. So our first thought of boys is typically something that's not about the positive parts of who they are. And I want to challenge you today to recognize that a lot of even these characteristics of boys is actually really positive for our classrooms and for our society as a whole. So rather than trying to fix all this, I mean, the smelly and dirty, like, let's be serious, they need to get clean. But some of the rest of this, the fact that they're actually very physical is really good for our world. We need the people who are going to dig in and feel all the sensory parts of everything, right? Like that is what we need construction people for, which is what my youngest son does. He's in construction and loves it and is really good at it because it's very physical, it's very hands-on, and there's not just sit down and be quiet, right? And sit at a desk all day. That would be torture for him. Whereas for my husband, he works in IT, sitting at a desk all day and staring at monitors is what gives him energy in life. My youngest son, that would be torture. So a lot of the material today is from this book called Wild Things, The Art of Nurturing Boys. If you have boys in your life, this book is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. But it really is all about boys, the developmental stages of boys. And that's a little bit where we're going today. The developmental stages of boys, to talk about just how can we meet their needs from birth. I go all the way up to about 7 or 8 because some of us have those age kids in our program. So we'll start at birth, really a little bit before birth, and then go all the way up to 7 or 8. But I love these quotes about boys, okay? From Plato: of all animals, the boy is the most unmanageable, inasmuch as he has the fountain of reason in him, not yet regulated. Can you just relate to that? Like our little preschool boys, toddlers, threes, fours, fives, preschool boys, they have no reason. They do crazy stuff. And as an adult woman, we're looking at them like, what in the world is he even thinking? Why would he do that? They cannot explain to you why they did that. They just did it because they had to. It literally is just who they are. And then I think we've all seen the signs for nurseries that say a boy is just a noise with dirt on it. And so many boys can be so noisy. And also, so many boys are very introspective and introverted, and you never hear a peep from them at all. This last quote from Winnie the Pooh: as soon as I saw you, I knew an adventure was going to happen. And we know so many of the little boys that walk in your classroom, like you see it in their body language, you see it in their little face. As soon as they walk in, you know it's going to be a fun day because they've already thought of 10 things that they want to do today that are going to make the day so much more fun. So, some things to remember about boys as we start. All children, including boys, are a gift from God. Y'all, I am a woman of faith, so some of what you hear today will be about faith. It'll be about my Christian faith because that's where I draw all of my foundation in that. So I really believe boys are a unique image bearer of our Creator. If we really believe that God created people in His image, then even the wild and playful and physical and really creative and imaginative parts of boys also show us an image of who God is. And I don't think we can just ignore that. Instead of trying to change boys a lot, maybe what we need to do is recognize who they are in this wild and playful way is actually a part of who God is. And we as adults have kind of forced ourselves to calm down and be a little bit more socially appropriate, which we have to teach them, right? We do. But part of who boys are is really a unique image bearer. And I think we should honor that in them instead of trying to change it out of them. And then boys are more than a little squirrely, but man, are they fun. Without boys in our classroom, I promise most of y'all would have a fairly boring life. Now, I also don't have daughters, and I'm sure there are a lot of beautiful things about daughters. Prana can talk about that.
Percent, yes. I'm all about girls, but I am enjoying your overview of the boys. I'm just like loving it right now.
Oh, good, Prana, thank you. These last two statements: how boys are nurtured in these early years directly affects who they will grow into as men. Don't forget that. If we are constantly telling them that they are bad, that they need to change who they are, that they need to be different, that they need to calm down, that they need to change themselves, it will impact their confidence as they grow into men, young men, and eventually adult men. And then how boys are designed truly requires a different approach than girls. They are different. Their brain wiring is different. Their hormonal secretions early on is different. And I'll show you some of that research here in a minute. But if they are to find their way to becoming noble men of character, which this is my goal in raising my sons, is I want them to be noble men of character in society. I don't want them making the news for all the stupid stuff they do. And we know, like, they're not going to always do the right thing. And neither are we as women. But if we're going to raise them up to be confident men who are comfortable in their masculinity and all those things, we've got to nurture them that way from the beginning, rather than trying to make them fit the mold that makes us the most comfortable all the time. So let's go. In the beginning, I'm going to compare boys and girls to you a little bit. In utero, before boys are born, they encounter adult level intensity of testosterone washing over them in utero. Can you imagine why maybe they come out more aggressive than girls? At 8 weeks gestation, boys are already bigger. In the womb, than girls are. They're physically larger at 8 weeks. They're more active and wakeful infants. This is general statements, y'all. I know not every child is this way. I had 3 sons and they were not all this way. But as babies, when you're taking care of young infants, you will see that boys are more active and awake earlier than girls. Their brain is wired for activity early on. Boys are squeezing out of their swaddles, like they are trying to pull their legs out. They're trying to pull their arms out of swaddles at an earlier age than girls are typically. Their brain is literally wired for their bodies to be moving. And then physically soothing young boys, infants and toddlers, when you're soothing them, rocking them with physical movement, right? Holding them tightly and rocking them has a better soothing effect than singing or talking to them. Okay. Compare that to girls. Let's see if my slide will move. There we go. Girls typically are smaller when they're born. Typically. Okay. I had big boys, like mine were all over 8 pounds. One of them was almost 9 pounds. So they were big. Typically, girls remain smaller in utero. They're born a little bit smaller, like their birth weight is typically smaller than boys. Girls are naturally wired for personal connections. Girls are always looking for the face of someone that they recognize from early on because they want that emotional connection with someone who's caring for them, where boys are looking for activity. Boys are moving. Their eyes are not necessarily looking as much for a personal connection, even though they need it. Their eyes are looking for things to do. Girls have a greater aptitude for relationships early on. Again, they connect harder and deeper to their caregiver than boys do from the beginning. Boys need the connection, but they, again, are looking for movement. Girls understand the emotion behind language way earlier than boys. You can talk to a girl in a stern voice at 6, 7, 8 months old, and they know that you mean business, where boys are oblivious to the emotion in your voice until much, much later. Typically, infant babies, infant girls, are easier soothed by singing and words than by rocking and body movement. So again, a little bit of a difference, right? Boys, they want to be held, they want movement. They want you to walk around with them, where girls most of the time would rather you talk to them in a sweet, calm voice, you sing songs to them, and maybe you hold them close to your body or you look into their eyes, where boys want you to be moving around. It's just different from the beginning. Then, y'all, this is my sweet middle son when he was 2, and he loved that cozy coop. It was the most favorite thing that he played with every day. But you can just see his little face. Like he looks like he's about to do something fun, right? This is what I want you to see in the boys in your classroom. Rather than their faces looking like they're going to be mischievous, which sometimes they are. Like, let's be serious. Their little cute faces are showing you they're about to cause some trouble. A lot of times what they're doing is they're looking for the adventure. They're looking for the adventure. And if your classroom doesn't have anything new, they will find something new and create something new, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for adventure. So you bringing in novelty sometimes will help mitigate their need for creating novelty. Between the ages of 2 and 4, you see this. Boys, they are walking, hopefully by the time they're age 2, and they have a little bit of language, okay? Girls have way more language in these early years than boys do. Boys start out grunting a lot, they point a lot. Again, they're moving a lot. They are not stopping and having a conversation with you. They're doing the things. Boys by age 2 have a greater muscle mass than most girls, which means they can carry heavier things. They push more things. Sometimes they push each other, or they push the girls around because they have the mass to do it. It's not always that they are trying to be aggressive. Sometimes they are actually showing lots of affection in using their muscle mass, right? They might want to hug their little friend and don't recognize that, hey, my body is really strong and me hugging my friend actually pushes them over. I want to show them that I'm happy to see them, and instead I'm pushing them over, and now I get in trouble for showing affection. Y'all think about that, because we do it to them a lot. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else, and I raised 3 of them. Boys between the ages of 2 and 4, what you see with them a lot is they are engaging in the epic battle of good versus evil. It's like it's innate in them. They just know that there's good guys and bad guys, and they work this out within themselves. Like you often see young boys in imaginative play, they assign, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, and then the next time it switches. They are trying to figure out, where do I fit in this battle that is going on in the world? Because there is a battle between good and evil in all the things that we do. And boys are trying to figure out, what does it look like to be the bad guy? Let me try that out. And what does it look like to be the good guy? Let me try that out. And then they're having this battle, which is why I say, it's so many of us want to say no guns allowed in our schools. And I'm going to tell you that boys carry them in their pockets in the form of their hands. Like, we can discourage the use of guns all we want, but the reality is somehow they're pulling them out anyway, or they get a lightsaber. And it's our job as educators to coach them in what's socially appropriate, right? So if you get your lightsaber out, that still doesn't mean that you kill people, right? We're fighting the battle of good versus evil, and hopefully you beat the bad guy and good wins, right?
Monica,
So think about your terminology rather than cutting off that play, that imaginative play with them. Think about the words that you're using to help them recognize, I see you in this epic battle against good versus evil, and we want the good to overcome the evil. But that doesn't mean we kill people. It doesn't mean, like, use your words carefully. Does that make sense?
yeah, so Monica, would you explain a little bit more on how would it be appropriate to reframe guns, swords, because it is so ingrained in them? Is there a
Yeah.
way to acknowledge it, that it's coming from an innate desire, but is there an appropriate way to get the message across that without killing their spirits, but also recognizing
Right.
what have you found helpful?
Yeah, I think you've got to figure out how we can allow them to play out some of this pretend play. Like, if they're pulling out a sword, can they use maybe a foam, like a pool noodle or something, and pretend swords, and really even pretend battle with each other, like hit each other with this, not hit each other's bodies, but hit the other person's sword, right? So that they can still work out kind of that need to battle without hurting each other's bodies. I think it's really good to acknowledge that we're not hurting each other's bodies, right? We don't allow hurting each other's bodies. That's not okay. So we're not stabbing each other with a sword, but if we can do that sword battle with foam noodles where no one's getting hurt, I think that's still appropriate. And a lot of this is, you have to decide what your community will accept as appropriate as well, right? I grew up in a small town in West Texas where everybody hunts all the time. So guns are not unusual, and most children understand and respect the danger of guns. Where now I live in a suburb of Dallas where that's not the case. Like, most of our friends don't hunt, they don't have guns in their homes. So what do we teach children about guns, right? I think we have to decide in our communities. In the community I grew up, it would have been totally fine to coach boys to say, hey, we hunt deer during deer season, right? Where in this North Dallas suburb, I might not really talk about hunting. I might say, hey, guns need to stay in your holster. Like, you can carry it
Yeah.
with you as your protection, but it needs to stay in your holster, which, I mean, kids that are familiar with guns and stuff will be familiar with that. So I think there's a
Yeah.
balance there, and you have to know your community in that.
I liked your framing of it, that the guideline is we don't hurt each other's bodies, but you can
Mhm.
definitely hit each other's noodle.
Right,
I think that makes it very visually clear. And Tati is saying that, they can shoot the monsters, or they can
right.
hunt for animals, but not hurt each other. So I think there's
Right.
ways of framing it. Thank you for addressing.
Well, and so many of the boys start playing like, you're the police officer and I'm the robber, right? Like cops and robbers. So you're the good guy and I'm the bad guy. And they, I mean, our children are watching things on television that they don't really know how to process. And a lot of times we see them process it in their pretend play. And we get to coach them along the way of what is the way that we handle this, right? And so I think it's important to look at the underlying, like, they're not just pulling out a gun to shoot someone. Is it that they're trying to process something that they have seen, and then can we help them along in that way? Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. I was unmuted and nodding yes. Yes.
Yes, I see you nodding yes. Yes. I love this third statement or fourth statement. Boys have a huge imagination at this stage of development. They actually have an ability to think of things and images that they've never experienced. Like, they can literally imagine themselves like flying, right? They've never experienced flying, but they will take the risk of jumping off a higher step off the playground because in their mind, they see themselves succeeding at that. I find that fascinating that boys have that ability and that they do take bigger risks, but you'll see also that often they take risks because they are so sure that they can accomplish what they think, what they've imagined they can accomplish. And a lot of times they do. A lot of times they do. They live in a fantasy world as much as a real world. This is why you will have, and I think girls do this in some sense too, but you'll have boys come to school in a Batman costume and they want you to call them Batman for the whole day because they, in their own mind, really believe that they're Batman for today. And they live out that persona for hours at a time because they want to experience what that's like to live as someone else. And I think girls do this as princesses too. So I don't think this is typically just a boy thing, but I hope you notice it in the boys that they live in this fantasy world. Sometimes they can tell really detailed stories of what's happening in their imagination and in these great stories that we then go, oh, that's not true. And I don't think we should just write it off as, oh, that's not true. Help them to explore their imagination. Like, what is it that happens, right? In this, I often see them do this. They're imagining their fight against evil again, right? And so help them kind of process that. Okay, well, what does it look like when you're the good guy and all this is happening, right? Or when you're Batman and somebody calls for help, what are you going to do when somebody calls for help? Like kind of help them process through that. I think that's a great way to teach them social and emotional, like what's actually appropriate socially, right? You're not going to just jump out of a flying car or whatever and wrestle the bad guy to the ground, right? Like that's not what we do at school. At school, we don't hurt each other's bodies. We use our words to deal with things that are hard or that we feel like if they're the bad guy and doing something to us, we can teach them then instead of wrestling to the ground like you think Batman would do. At school, we use our words. What does it look like if we were to use our words to tell the bad guy what we think, right? Help them to process that in that way, in a healthy way. Another thing I want to tell y'all is there's a great story in the book, Wild Things, about boys being problem solvers. They, at this age, 2 to 4 years old, boys will do so many creative and interesting things to solve a perceived problem. The example in the book is they had girls and boys that were between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old, so a little bit younger and not quite 4, in a room with their mommies. And then the mommies had to put their babies down on one side of the room, and there was a barrier in the middle of the room, a barrier being, a 2 to 3 foot tall wall. They could see their mommies over the wall, the girls and the boys. They could see their mommies on the other side of the wall, but the wall was there, so they couldn't crawl through it. They couldn't get to their mommies. Basically, what you see is girls go up to the wall as much as they can and stand and cry and raise their hands up like, mommy, save me. Mommy, come get me. Most of the boys would get to the wall. They are trying to push the wall over. They're walking along the wall back and forth, trying to find a doorway or trying to find a way to climb over the wall instead of them retreating into their emotions like the girls do, right? Like, and we said the girls are more wired for that relationship. Boys are like, oh no, my body is strong and I will find a way to get to my mommy by myself. And they are working hard to solve this problem, where girls don't necessarily do that. I find that super fascinating and saw that really in all 3 of my sons, that they would do whatever it took to get their own bodies to solve a problem for them. All right, young age, who are these boys? We've talked about it a lot, so this is more of a summary page than anything else. They are active. They are always moving. That's us in preschool, y'all. That's why two's teachers leave the day physically very exhausted because 2-year-old boys and girls, but boys especially, are always moving. They're trying to climb on something. They are always exploring the world around them. They can be a really stubborn learner because guess what? Boys at this age, their brains secrete a lot less serotonin, and serotonin is impulse control. They don't have it. Girls' brains secrete more serotonin at an earlier age. So girls have earlier impulse control than boys. It's brain science, y'all. So when we get frustrated with boys who do things without thinking, their brains literally cannot stop themselves. So instead of getting frustrated, recognize that in them. Their brains literally cannot stop themselves from doing things sometimes. They just do it. Boys come across at this age sometimes as more aggressive than girls. They have a lot of extra energy. And sometimes it comes across as aggression. I alluded to this a little bit earlier when I said they try to hug their friends, but instead they knock them to the ground. A lot of times they show affection through aggression. So, like, I definitely, one of my sons would run full speed toward me to give me the greatest, biggest bear hug of all every day. And then for him, that was, I love my mommy so much and I missed her after school. For me, that was, here he comes. I better brace myself because he's putting his full body force into loving me right now. Which, if I wasn't ready, he could knock me over, even at 3 years old. And you see this from the boys. They come at you with full force, but what they want is to love you a lot of times. And that's how they show their affection. It seems aggressive sometimes and can even appear aggressive. But step back and take a look. Is that little boy coming in to tackle his friend because he's angry and wants to hurt him? Or is that boy coming in for a hug or a, hey, I'm your friend and I love you so much and I just want to give you a hug? It could be either, right? And so if we will take a second and step back and really evaluate what are these boys trying to do? Are they really just trying to tackle each other and hurt each other? Or are they actually showing love? And then recognize too that some boys do not mind at all being tackled to the ground. They actually find they're like, yes, my friend loves me. Look at that. He tackled me straight to the ground. And now we can roll around and wrestle with each other because we love each other. So yes, we have to find the balance in safety and making sure that kids aren't getting hurt, and also recognizing that that might just be their way of being friends at this age. And when we find that balance, we're going to do the best for them that we can. Boys also have really physical meltdowns. You'll see that boys will throw tantrums with their whole bodies. Their whole body will go flailing. They will throw themselves on the ground faster than girls will. Girls often will start crying and then slowly kind of lower themselves to the ground until they're on the ground and crying. Boy, it is not unusual to see a boy just flat out like throw himself down on the ground. Their full body is involved in expressing their emotions. They're also super, super curious, very curious at this age, which sometimes for us is they're mischievous and they're pushing boundaries. And they are. They're investigating everything that they can. Remember, when they want something, they are going to try to solve the problem to get what they want. So if you put something high up because you don't want them to have it, their brains are looking for ways to get up there to get it, instead of saying, oh, I need to leave that up there. And we have to teach them, right? No, this is up there because it needs a break from you, or you need a break from it, right? This doesn't mean you get to crawl up there to get it. But know that in their brain, they are looking for a way to solve this problem. You took that away from me. I am going to find a way because I am a problem solver. They're also super kinesthetic and hands-on. I think I've said that enough that you know that. They want to experience things. They don't necessarily want to hear things. So you talking a lot to them, they're not hearing you. I mean, as much as my husband can tune me out, these young boys can tune you out very quickly too. They are not listening to your words. They want to do things. So don't give them too many instructions. We'll talk about that in a minute. Give them things to do. Boys between the ages of 2 and 4 can be very, very self-determined. They're independent. They are DIYers, meaning they want to figure it out themselves. They don't need you to give them 10 minutes of instruction. They want to figure it out on their own. They're also looking for power and purpose. Men, I feel like, are very much naturally wired. Girls in a lot of sense too, but men really need control over things. They want choices. And I mean, we know in early childhood, it's good for kids to have choices, to make choices. It actually builds confidence in them, boys and girls. But boys have a need. They have a true need to feel like they made a choice, that they are in control of something, that they have power over something. So giving them choices and then also giving them purpose. I think it's wonderful to start talking to boys about, you know what? When you grow big, even when you're small in our classroom, it's important for you to help protect all of us. it's important, even when they're starting to show some aggression, to say, hey, I see that you were defending your friend, but this isn't the best way to do that, right? So if you see them really defending someone else, if they go, Johnny took Susie's toy and they go to Johnny and push him over because they want to protect Susie. No, we should not have pushed Johnny. But I see that you were trying to defend Susie, and that's a beautiful thing, right? So call that out as I see that you're trying to defend someone. I see that you're trying to protect our classroom. Those kinds of things that really build strength and purpose in these young boys will go a long way as they become teenagers and then men, to say, I have purpose in life. Like, there is a purpose for me being here, rather than just stop pushing your friends. All right, are y'all ready to move on? What does he need? He needs a lot of stuff. Young boys need a lot of boundaries. And this is, hopefully you've heard me say this, while I want to respect who they are, give them choices, give them control over some things, give them a purpose, allow them to be more physical than you even think sometimes is necessary. We have to give them boundaries. It's like I said earlier, their brain is physically not able to help them regulate yet. They need us to do that, and they need boundaries in order to do that. That also means that we have to hold consistent boundaries. If your boundaries are constantly moving around, and this is for boys and girls both, you know this, but if your boundaries keep moving one direction or the other and they never know what to expect, they will solve their own problems. They will do what they want because you've allowed it. Remember, they're not capable of self-regulating at this point. They need you to provide the limits. Okay. Also, set those boundaries with realistic expectations. You cannot expect a 2, 3, 4-year-old boy to sit still and be quiet for long periods of time. That's an unrealistic expectation. That's just what it is. Y'all know, because you're in Prana's world, that that's not realistic for boys or girls, but I'm just going to remind you. Boys also need a lot of open space. And this, I get a lot of pushback from this every time I say this. They need safe and acceptable places to run, jump, kick, punch, climb, and throw. They are going to do these things because they are learning how to use their bodies. So, is there a safe place in your classroom, even not just we can run outside or we can jump outside? In your classroom, is there a safe space for boys to jump? There needs to be. And maybe you tape a square on the floor and say, this is the place where we jump. You can jump around the edges of the tape like a do jumping jacks on that. Find a place where it's acceptable for them to move their bodies, their whole bodies, because they need to. Is there a safe way for them to kick in your classroom? Because they need to move their muscles in that motion. A safe place to kick, obviously we don't want them to kick their friends. Is there a place that you could set up in your room? And maybe it's not even available every day, but sometimes there's a space where they can kick a beanbag, or they can kick like a Nerf ball, like the foam balls that don't provide a whole lot of bounce, right? That they're not going to go flying all over your room because they kick it up against a wall. Is there a place where they could do that? I encourage you to find a place. Yeah.
I love this. I love this, that actually creating a space in the classroom and not
Yes.
waiting for them to go outside. This will really change so many behaviors.
Yes.
One of the things that we had also tried was tracing the little boy's hand, because he was getting so aggressive, and I had placed it just slightly out of his reach. So he had to jump,
Yes.
give himself a high five.
Perfect.
And that got a lot of his energy out, because he
Yes.
was pushing and shoving, but just reaching the hand just slightly above, and
Mhm.
just this exertion of pushing and jumping and hitting.
Right.
Yeah,
When
they need.
I think they love that challenge too, of it's slightly out of my reach. So can I get there? So even providing a little bit of that challenge, I think, is really helpful to them. And then punch, climb, throw. Like, y'all think about it. They are going to throw things. What can we do to make it safe? We don't want them to throw wooden blocks, but can they throw a beanbag? Can they throw a pom-pom, a large or small, right? Like either one. What can they throw so that it's safe? Same thing with climbing. They're going to try to climb. I like the idea of allowing them to set up their own, like let them during free play or during center time, let them set up their own obstacle course to climb under and over chairs or under and over tables, maybe, where they're doing you're giving them a physical challenge. I love the idea of putting something just out of reach where they have to jump to reach it, or even giving them an opportunity or a challenge or an activity where they have to crawl on the floor, like in an army crawl, where they're engaging all of their body to get out some of that energy. You'll see that when you offer the opportunities, there are girls that are going to participate in these same activities. There are. But boys really need them to be successful in the classroom.
Would you like to invite questions or wonderings at this time, or do you want
Sure.
to?
Are there questions? We can definitely talk about them.
We haven't seen any questions. Definitely people are resonating with your content, and Amber's saying that yes, creating a space where they can do these things versus just shutting it down is going to be
Yeah.
powerful. So are there any questions, any specific wonderings that you would like Monica to respond? I have a question.
Yes,
Okay, go, Tati, go. So do you want to stop sharing, Monica, so everybody can see everybody, or how do you
Sure.
want to ask questions? Do you want it in the chat or do you want to unmute?
Yeah, no, if we want to have a discussion, let's unmute and talk.
Okay, we have a few minutes. Go for it.
my question is, I noticed, and I don't know how to help my teachers in this format. There are children who throw, and I thought that was really interesting that you brought it up because there's one, for example, he is in the 18-month-old class, and anytime anyone walks in through the classroom, he's literally chunking toys at whoever it is. He's even done it to parents or to teachers or whoever walks in through the door. He finds it just hilarious to throw toys at them, and he has a good arm. But he's constantly like beaming and trying to throw toys at teachers and people who walk in through the door. So if you have any advice on that, I would take it.
Wow. I mean, I would say 18 months is early to start doing some of those things, but I think giving him some, I mean, as a teacher, you might just have to be very vigilant as somebody walks in the room that you can be close to him or something, first of all, so he doesn't have the opportunity to throw toys or inappropriate things. But start working on that. Like, this is not the time to throw. We're going to go, if you want to throw, this is the part of room where it's safe to throw. So, and then give him a bean bag and he can throw a bean bag here instead of throwing a toy at a person or a teacher or an adult or whatever. I think alternatives of like, what is it that you want him to do? I'm also a big, like, we need to teach kids what we want them to do rather than focusing so much on what we want them not to do. So instead of saying don't
Right.
throw, we're saying you can throw safely in this corner, in this space with this bean bag. Let's go over here.
Monica, Roslyn
And I
has a
think you're
question.
absolutely right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just trying to take the next question. Did that help, Tati?
Yes, absolutely, because I noticed that he did it more obviously when the teachers told him, when they bring attention to it. And so now he thinks it's funny. So
Yeah.
just taking away that attention would probably help. Thank you so much.
Taking the attention and immediately redirecting. If you see him go up to throw, you turn his body toward where it's safe to go and go ahead and take him over there. So if he's going to throw, I mean, it's going to take time, right? And he's super young. So that's a whole other thing too. He's really young, but showing him this is the safe place to do that and the safe way to do that. And it's not with a truck. It's not with a block. It's going to be with a beanbag or a foam ball or a pom-pom, like a larger pom-pom that he can grasp with his whole hand, like something like that. That is going to be a safe way to throw, and you can throw, and look at you, look how amazing you are to throw. And then give him a challenge over there too, like put a trash can that his goal is to hit the trash can with that ball, or even with a wadded up piece of paper, or put a target on the wall that you're going to throw the beanbag at the target on the wall. We're not going to throw at people.
Roslyn has a good question. How do you differentiate the difference between behaviors issues versus boy being a boy?
Oh, good question. Really good question. I think that's a challenge, honestly. I think it's a challenge. But I think when you start learning, I think when you give them the benefit of the doubt that especially in these early preschool years, most of the time the boys they're trying to figure out, how strong am I? Where is the boundary? Where is the boundary? Is it a problem that they're trying to solve? Or are they really just angry and they don't have language, or they're frustrated and they don't have language, or they don't have the appropriate skills to use other tools versus boy being a boy? Like I do think giving them extra space to run, jump, like be physical is beneficial. It's always beneficial. And it's not just a boy being a boy. It's going to be beneficial to them. So, I mean, it's boy behavior. But if you see a lot of they're inappropriately starting to kick or throw things inappropriately, or at times that's inappropriate, right? Like if they're supposed to be sitting in circle and listening to a story and they start throwing things or kicking, then that's behavioral, but also his body is telling you that he has a need to move. So is there a way that you can give him an opportunity to move appropriately while not allowing him to kick? Does that make sense?
I
So
have
if
to
they're
call,
supposed to,
I
yeah,
normally end up calling it, you have to play detective. You really have
right.
to play detective. Like, is this a need right now? Or
Mhm.
is this, emotion right now? Or is this
Right.
just the body needing to move? Alan, if you wouldn't mind posting the link for the evaluation, there's like 2 or 3 questions. And if you would like a certificate, the link of the certificate is in the evaluation. So complete the 2 or 3 questions and you'll get the certificate. Not everybody needs a certificate, wants a certificate. So we're just making it easy. We're not going to mail certificates, just be in the link. So as soon as Alan posts it, Monica will keep talking, but just keep an eye out for the link for
Yeah.
evaluation and certificate.
Okay,
Good.
we're going to go
That makes sense.
through. I'm going back to my slides. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this, but boys really need consistency. If your boundaries shift, if your expectations are different from day to day, they're going to struggle. So routines and schedules for boys are really, really helpful. And this is for all children. I know Prerna, any of the schools you coach, I know you coach on routines and structures and schedule that they need to stay as consistent as possible. I think boys in general need really simple commands. Do not give them 10 sentences of what you want them to do. You really need to give them the simplest, concrete commands, like not even a question of like, would you like to clean up, but clean up the blocks, put the blocks on the shelf, like as few words as possible is what they need. And then engage his senses when you're trying to communicate with him. If you're trying to talk to a boy from across the room, he will not hear you. You must be close to them, get down on his level, even put your hand on his shoulders to kind of hold him in place and say, Benny, look at Miss Monica. I'm talking to you, right? That way he's feeling your touch, he's seeing your eyes, and he's hearing your voice. Engage his senses. Y'all, it works with husbands too. I'm just going to say. Be understanding. Boys are different than girls, and we cannot expect them to act the same. Girls often enjoy story time and listening a lot more than boys do. If boys are not tangibly, like kinesthetically engaged in a story, they're not going to be with you long, most of them. They'll start daydreaming, they'll start moving their bodies, they'll start fidgeting, they'll start touching each other, all those things if they are not really engaged. Be concrete and direct. Short instructions versus lots of questions. I would say at this age, between 2 and 4, there's no need to ask boys like, what do we do with the blocks? Just tell them what to do with the blocks. Put the blocks on the shelf, not asking them a question, because asking them a question requires them, remember we talked about this, it requires them to process language, which is hard for them. Girls process language much earlier and sooner. Okay. So if you ask a girl a question like that, she probably will be able to answer you fairly quickly. Boys are trying to process, what does this question even mean? And then, well, what words am I supposed to use again to say it? So it's taking them a lot longer. Just tell them what you want instead of asking them a question and waiting for them to respond. And then you're going to have to tell them what you want anyway. Okay. Shortcut for you and them. We're going to quickly go over a little bit about boys ages 5 to 8. We saw that 2 to 4, they're labeled as explorers. Between 5 and 8, these boys they become lovers. You see, a lot of times we see this in our mid to older 4s. They start becoming very tender. They become thoughtful, kind. This is where they start picking flowers for you on the playground. They draw pictures for you with hearts and love, and they want to hug you more and more in gentler, kinder ways. They have much more emotional sensitivity, which also means they have more fear. This is where a lot of times for boys, they start being afraid of the dark. They start recognizing monsters and things like that at 4.5, 5 years old is where this really starts. And then relationships start really hurting, where before this stage of development, they really are, they'll play with anybody. They are very aggressive. They don't necessarily like, they're not like girls that you're seeing early and earlier, like, I'm not inviting you to my birthday party. Boys are not really doing that. Like they will play with whoever. They don't really even talk about their birthday parties until it's time, where girls are planning their party the year ahead of time. Boys are not really doing that. They'll just, if you want to run with me, I want to run with you. But starting at about 4.5, closer to 5, they start having that, why don't they want to be my friend? Why don't they want to play with me? Like they start feeling those tender emotions in friendship, and it can be very painful for them. So just be aware, while girls have been processing these emotions for a couple of years, the boys are just now starting to process. Boys actually really have a desire to be obedient. They start knowing what's right about 4.5. That's when children really start understanding, no, this is right and that is wrong. They have a genuine desire to please you most of the time. They don't want you to be upset with them. They actually really want you to be pleased with the actions that they're taking, with the choices that they're making. So call it out. When they're doing the right thing, when they're making good choices, acknowledge that. Notice it with your words. I see you pushed your chair in. That is so helpful in our classroom. Specifically call out what you see them doing that is good, right? That they are making the right choice. They're making good decisions. Call it out, and then they need that reassurance from you that they're doing the right thing. Guilt and shame at this age, they internalize it so much. So if your typical redirection to them is, I can't believe you would do something like that, that heaps shame on them, they are going to internalize that and carry it with them for a long time. So just be careful about how you redirect at this age and how you call out their misbehavior. They still need you to call it out, but they need you to be gentle and careful in how you do it. Boys at this age are very, very competitive. Everything is a race. You will see this. Everybody wants to be first. I can do it faster than you. I can do it bigger than you. I'm bigger than you. My daddy's bigger than you. Like everything is a competition. I don't know how you measure this, but there is research that says that boys are actually up to 20 times more competitive than girls at this age. Most of their competition at this age is actually non-aggressive. They want to be first, but they don't want to actually hurt somebody to be first, typically. Sometimes in order to get first, they bump into each other, they try to pass each other, all those things. They're typically not trying to hurt each other. They really are just trying to get there first. There's a great juxtaposition of tenderness and competition. Like they will get super excited about their friends winning something. So if their friend wins a race or wins a game, they are thrilled and so excited, as long as they were not part of that game and they lost, right? So if they see their friend winning the race with, if 3 boys are running and the 4th boy is observing, he will be super excited for whichever one wins the race. If he was one of the 3 running the race, he will be super sad that he did not win the race. It's just an interesting, they very much are cheering for each other and also have a need to win. These older boys, we're going to go more quickly because most of us don't have many of them. Allow them to be boys. Again, we are showing them what's socially acceptable. So don't say boys will be boys. Like I do think we need to hold them accountable for what's socially acceptable, while also recognizing that they need more movement, they need more choices, they need to be louder. Those are things that they absolutely need. And also we are teaching them what's socially appropriate. Okay. Offer mercy to them. Sometimes they need a second chance rather than you made a dumb decision and now we're taking that away, or now you've lost this privilege. Sometimes they need you to say, wow, I bet you can make a better choice next time. Let's try that again. And give them that opportunity to try again, because again, their impulse control is still really lagging. So they're learning, but that impulse control just is not developed. And so they need a chance to try again. They need strong relationship that includes lots of affection. I'm going to say many, not most. Many young boys need lots of physical affection. They need you to hug them. They need you to give them high fives. They need you to pat their shoulders or squeeze their shoulders when they've done something great. They need that from you. So you know them. Some of them will pull away from that, and you need to just be aware of that. But a lot of boys really need physical affection from the people that are in their life, and they need consistent, stable interaction. This is at this age, when parents are separated or divorced at this age, it can be devastating to young boys because they no longer feel that stability and that steadiness that they that they long for. And so it's important as caregivers that we can be stable even if their families are not. It's just a really important time for them to feel consistent and stable relationship. They still need lots of routines and schedules. I love to give boys at this age responsibility. They need to feel like they're doing important jobs. So the jobs that you give them, help them to understand why it matters for the classroom. Why is this important for this job to get done and to get done well? They need to understand that. It goes back to the power and purpose. Like they need purpose in what they're doing. And then they need help regulating, set boundaries, do good boundaries. I love the 2 times rule, which is I tell you once and I give you a chance to do it yourself. I tell you a second time as a reminder, because again, we know boys take a while to process language and commands. So tell them a second time. And at that point, you use the words, this is the second time I'm telling you, do it now, right? You're giving them a firm, do it now. And then you have to be consistent in consequences at that point. If they still don't obey, then you know what your consequences are and you must follow through. That's where consistency comes in. You have to follow through. If you don't follow through, the boundary just became nebulous. And that's hard. That's hard for me. It's hard for you. It's hard for all of us. But it's so, so necessary.
Wow, this is incredible. We're like down to 3 minutes.
Oh, yes.
I'll put the link again in case it got buried in the chat. Lots of people are resonating with what you're saying. They're like, this is my class today. You're describing my class to a T. Like you nailed it. You nailed it.
Here you go. Take a picture of this slide. We're not going to talk through it because we're out of time, but take a picture. These are things that I feel like we could do in the classroom for boys that are good for boys and good for girls. They're good for everyone if we'll but consider it, you know. Something that I want to remind you of is boys are mathematically and spatially advanced in these preschool years. It doesn't mean that we don't give them language and literacy activities. It means they're going to be more challenged by that, and you just need to be aware of that. And the same with girls are more literacy minded at this age, but that doesn't mean we don't push them and challenge them with spatial activities that they need to learn too, right? We know that they're going to be more challenged by that, but that doesn't mean we don't provide those opportunities.
There will be a recording shared, absolutely. The certificate, however, will not be sent separately. So please take the time to complete the evaluation if you really would like the certificate. If you don't care about the certificate, we would still like your feedback. And I'm definitely going to share the feedback with Monica.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I definitely that.
They're loving it. There's awesome training, great training. You're getting some really good resonating happening. I know it's going to be in the evaluation, what is your takeaway, but if you just want to quickly write it here, what your takeaway is, what resonated with you. It's always nice to see everybody else's. We'll see everybody's, but you won't see it. So take a minute and write down what resonated with you. What are you walking away with? What will you implement? Like all these conversations are only about you're going to transfer, right? Or what was an aha? What was something that you were just like, oh my God, I had no idea. I had lots of ahas. The whole in utero thing, that was fascinating to me.
Yeah, me too. Y'all, when I really started thinking through that, like boys literally from the beginning come out as more aggressive than girls. Like some of those things that I'm like, this is so frustrating to me as a teacher, as a classroom teacher, or even as a mom of boys in my home with their friends coming over. Like, why do you always have to wrestle? Why? It's just in them.
Yeah. Heather is saying
you have to teach them when it's appropriate and not.
Yeah. She's going to create a space in the classroom.
Yay!
Yes, you want your teachers to watch it, Karen. absolutely. And I'm going to put it on YouTube. So here's the other thing, guys. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to share the YouTube link on the social media. Share it. Like, you know, this is why we do these conversations. Get the word out. Get the word out. Definitely, Katie, send it out to everybody. I also had not realized how much deeply ingrained they are being a problem solver. That resonated with me. I had not realized that that is such a ingrained quality. Anybody else? Alternatives and substitutions of boys. Maria, thank you for being here and sharing. Anything else that you're just like, oh my God, I had no idea. Lots of great ideas is what Allison's saying. Wonderful.
Well, listen, I'm always happy to brainstorm with you about things that have to do with boys. I'm obviously I'm invested in how we educate young boys, especially.
Well,
And
you're coming back next year. I'm just saying.
thank you for that.
You're invited back. We're gonna do this again, and we're gonna add to it, right? You're gonna take us deep. This conversation needs to continue.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. More chances.
I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and if you want to email me or anything, do that.
Social media too. Share your social media so they can follow you and they can
I'm
stay
happy
on
to
top.
share any of the, I mean, if you want to copy the slides or anything, email me. I'm happy to share them with you. And yeah, any of that. And our social media, I mean, earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com is our website, and you can get to almost everything from there. Let me put it here. ChristianNetwork.com.
Yes, please reach out to Monica. She is so full of resources. She's amazing, making a difference in the world of early childhood. And please reach out to her, support her. And if you're looking for a training, if you need support in your program, she also is a speaker on her own, not just with a business, but for herself. So reach out.
Yeah, I do a lot of training on my own too, and love to talk about, I mean, a lot of stuff that you talk about too, Prerna, social emotional development, and really just challenging behavior, how we can be creative and how we support children in that in a healthy way that supports their brains and supports their hearts in the process.
This is why we're friends.
I know it is. We care a lot about young children. We care about their brains, and we care about how we can connect them in their communities, in their little communities. So yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to pause the recording because I'm so famously will forget about that as well. So